Bhadram Pashyemakshaphiryajatraः Sthirairangai Spushtuvagunsastanuभिः Vyashema Devahitanyayayuः Swasti na Indro Vridhashavaः Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaः Swasti nastaksho Arishthanemiः Swasti no Brihaspati Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.
So we are continuing our discussion. So there are three karigas which deal with these different views of creation. Ichha matram prabho srishti iti srishto vinishchita kala prasudim bhudanam manninde kala chintakaha. Ichha matram prabho sat prabho etc. This is bhashya, but before that is on bhogatham srishti vityenne kiratham vidichakare devasesha subhavoyam aptakamasya kaspraha. So till our seventh karya we were discussing how Srishti happens and what is Srishti, what is creation and how does creation evolve. That was the topic discussed up to 7th Karika. From 8th Karika onwards we are discussing why this Srishti and what's the purpose of Srishti. So that is the theme discussed in the 8th and the 9th Karika. Ichha matram prabho srishtihi iti srishto vinishchitaha kala prasudim bhudanam mannindi kala chintakaha. So one school of philosophers believe that Srishti is just for just a sankalpa and the reason behind the sankalpa is ichha. I mean, God wants to do something and therefore Srishti happens. That's one view. Another Mannindi Kala Chintakaha means another school of philosophers will tell you that Srishti happens in time and from time. I mean slowly this entire world, created world, evolves, grows and goes through different phases in its evolution. This is the view of these Kala Chintakaha. And then Bhogartham, another school believes that it is just for the enjoyment, for the fulfillment of desires of God, that this creation happens. That's one view. And another school believes this is just the sport, Leela. Leela is some kind of an activity that you do, not with any specific purpose and not with a definite purpose to achieve. It's just something that you do, which you like doing, which you enjoy doing. And then finally, the conclusion is, Devasesha Swabhavoyam Aptakamasya Kaspraha. So the last statement in this 9th Karika tells you none of these views are acceptable because there are some flaws in all these views. That is, God creates His world out of His desire or for His enjoyment, or creation happens in time, creation happens because God wants to play. All these views have some fundamental flaw. Therefore, we are presenting the most logical explanation of Srishti, that is Devasya Swabhava, means it is just the nature, the inherent nature. Swabhava actually means, for example, the characteristics of anything which are an integral part of that entity. For example, heat and light are characteristics of Agni. You cannot remove heat and light and then think of Agni. So they are the very essence of Agni. So that's the idea behind. So Subhavaha. And then as an explanation why we don't accept the earlier views is Aptakamasya Kaspraha. Creator or God is normally conceived to be Aptakama. I mean, there is no more desire to be fulfilled. Whatever he wants he has already achieved already. So there is no more desire, there is no intention ahead. So that is a characteristic of Ishvara. Therefore, all these views are negated, and finally the Siddhanta Paksha is given, that is Svabhavavada. That is Siddhanta Paksha, that is Devasya Svabhavaha. Iyam Srishti. This idea. Bhashya means Ichchamatram Prabhohu Satya Sankalpatva Srishti Kadadinam Sankalpana Matram Na Sankalpana Atiriktam. This is a reference to the 8th Karika, which tells you Ichchamatram Prabho Srishti, it is still Nishtida. So in other words, Ishvara is Satya Sankalpa. Sankalpa is involuntary will. You are not planning, you are not deciding. A thought comes to your mind and the thought becomes a reality. So, of course, you find many of these ideas mentioned in the Yoga Vasishtha and elsewhere. The Sankalpa is mentioned, Spandana is mentioned, and Spanda, all these are mentioned. It should be understood that wherever you find in any Vedantic literature, where it is mentioned that Spandanam or Sankalpa is the cause of creation, the meaning, the implication is, it is the Sankalpa of Ishvara, either Vaishwanara, Hiranyagarbha, or Ishvara, Antaryami. That is, the cosmic reality alone can create this world out of Sankalpa, not Jivas. Because Jivas themselves are part of Srishti, so Jivas cannot create anything. It is a very serious problem among the many Neo-Vedantins who tell you, do this and everything is fine. So, I can refer to you a very interesting article which was published in Global Vedanta maybe some 20 years ago. Global Vedanta is an important publication. Now it's just gone into internet. I mean, it is an online journal. It used to be a printed journal. So there was an article by an American from Seattle. It was at the time of Bhaskaranji, 25 years ago. So the title of the article was, very interesting, Not So Fast, or Enlightened One. It was referring to the crop of new Vedantics emerging, not only from the US but also from India. And but certainly not in a very complimentary tone. Because many of these viewers will tell you, do 3 things and you will be beyond the mind. And you do this and everything will be wonderful in this world. So, and remember, these views are not taken very seriously or not complimented by serious students of Vedanta either in the East or West. So, many of these ideas of these Neo-Vedantins are taken, unfortunately, from Yoga Vasishtha. Yoga Vasishtha is a very important book. Yoga Vasishtha is talking about Vedanta from the highest perspective. It actually is not giving a compact philosophy. In a way, it is true that if you can go beyond mind, there will be no problem. So Ramana Maharshi's famous statement is that when you turn your mind outward, that is the world. When you turn your mind inward, that is Atman. But you cannot really turn your mind inward. Mind will become non-mind when you turn it inward. Because mind is designed, created to focus on the outward objects. Paranjikani Pituna Swayambhu, when the Katholisha said. So this mind is designed and created with the purpose of looking outward, not inward. If you can turn your mind inward, that is possible only at the level of samadhi. And then when you go beyond mind. Going beyond mind means connecting with Atman. That's the only way. When you turn your mind inward, then it goes straight to Atman. The turning mind inward is called Nidhyasanam and Atmanubhuti. Such the meaning of what Ramana Maharshi said. When you turn your mind inward, it is Atman. It is no more mind. When you turn it outward, of course, it is the world of objects. Now, this Sankalpa should be understood. Sankalpa as a cause of creation can only be applied in the context of Ishvara, not of Jiva. This is a very, very important thing to remember. Now coming to Bhashya. Bhogartham kridartham idi cha anye srishti manyante. So, according to one school of philosophers, this creation is meant for the bhoga of Ishvara and also eventually, remember, this idea is reading of Jiva's aspirations into God's mind. Because the idea of bhoga and krida can happen only at the level of Jivas. So, from an ordinary empirical point of view, an ordinary Jiva thinks that Srashta or Ishvara creates his world for his enjoyment, just he wants many things in this world for his enjoyment. Kridartham, that is one explanation. Logavattu Leela Kaivalyam. This idea is found in many books. Kridartham, see, Krida is sport. Now, why do you play football? Unless, of course, you are a professional footballer, then football is your profession. It's not a very enjoyable thing. Whatever you do as a profession, as a duty, as part of your job, it is not very enjoyable. When you do the same thing as Krida, it is very enjoyable. So you find a computer specialist, maybe somebody working 16 hours, I am seeing in Silicon Valley, they work for 16 hours, and then they are very much excited about doing karma yoga, volunteering work at a physical level in our retreat, Nodima retreat. So 2,300 acres of land, I do that. But those handymen, Mexican handymen who are working, they will play computer game for their krida. So computer people with work with computers, 16 hours a day, grueling work. For them, krida is some kind of physical activity, hiking and all. On the other hand, those who are working hard at physical level, their krida is computer game. So what is the concept of leela or krida? It means some kind of hobby. Something that you do, not because it's mandatory for you, but because that's what you do to forget your mind, to go beyond your mind, to let out the steam when you are tired or fatigued. So like that, Jiva thinks God is creating this world for Krida. So Bhogartham, Kridartham, idicha anye srishti manyate. Anayohu pakshayohu dushanam devasya eva subhavoyam iti. So a refutation of these two views, that is Bhogartham and Kridartham, mentioned in Naiyayikarika. So anayohu pakshayohu dushanam in refutation. Fine? Devasya subhavoyam iti. It is just like Subhava, like the Prakasha and Ushna, light and heat are the integral characteristics of Agni, like that. The Srishti is a natural characteristic of Ishvara. So Devasya Subhava Paksham Asritya Sarvesham Va Pakshanam Aptakamasya Ka Spraka Iti. So Devasya Subhava Paksham Asritya. So taking up this view, that is, creation is just the natural, integral, spontaneous, involuntary activity on the part of Ishvara, Sarvesham Pakshanam Aptakamasik Kaspati. Sprahayati means all other views, Sarvesham Pakshanam Nirasa, in that sense. All other views are rejected by saying Aptakamasik Kaspraha. Because in all these views you find the Creator is in need of something. The Creator Ishvara has a desire. He wants to play, or he wants to enjoy certain things, and he has a desire, or like that, whatever it may be. So, except in this Kala Chintaka, except in all other views, there is an implication of some kind of imperfection or incompleteness on the part of Ishvara. So, an Ishvara cannot be Ishvara if he has any desire. Because that's why Aptakama Sikha Spraha. If there is Spraha, there is no perfection, there is no 100% knowledge, there is no enlightenment. Therefore, Ishvara cannot have any kind of Spraha. Nahi yajwadhinam avidya subhava vitirekena sarpadya bhasakte karanam sakyam vaktum. That is Subhava Paksha is again projected here. So, nahi yajwadhinam avidya subhava vitirekena. So, why does the rajju, the rope appear to be the snake? Actually, you can ask this question. There is no real answer. If somebody tells you because there was not enough light, one may ask then, if there is no enough light, still why should you mistake it for something else? You may say because you could not see things. Why can't you see everything? You can ask this question, why should there be gravitation? Why should there be cosmos like this? Why should there be relativity? Why should there be this conservation of energy? Why should there all these things? Why should this earth be in this round shaped spherical form? Why can't it be flat? So these questions have no real answer anywhere in any branch of learning. So the only ultimate answer for the mystery of creation of created world is it is like this. So Vedanta is trying to find out, looking around, well, why is the world like this? And finally you find, well, it is what it is. First of all, Vedanta doesn't accept this world is absolutely real. So why should you worry too much about something that you know to be absolutely not real, only relatively real? So that is the argument which is coming forward. So except the explanation that you just happen to mistake the rope for a snake or whatever other vikalpas may be, there is no real reason for it. Even if you see a house, if there is not enough light, you may mistake the house for something else. It's a tiny house, may mistake it for a truck or something. Like that happens. So why should this sort of misunderstanding be pass? There is no real answer except that Subhava. That's only. Subhava vitirekena. That is avidya Subhava vitirekena. That is this the Subhava projected by avidya, by the absence of true knowledge. That's the only answer. One may ask the question, if you are throwing a stone to the sky and then you explain because it's because of gravitation, why should there be gravitation? There is no real answer. So, now the Bhashya continues. Chadurtha Padaka Krama Prapto Vaktavya Ityaka. Now, Chadurtha Pada begins. It is not that Chadurtha Pada is the totality of everything or it is part of it. It just happens to be. But when you realize what Turiya is, then you understand Chadurtha Pada is not really Chadurtha in that sense, it's not fourth. Because if you call it a fourth state, then you have to admit that it is just like any one of the other three states. It is mentioned just because it happens to be mentioned after the other three states. This is krama praptaha. Na antaprajnam ityadina. Sarva shabda pravritti nimitta shunyatvam tasya shabda anabhideyatul idi. So, this I mentioned earlier. That is Panja Sabda Pravritti in Vedanta. Anything that you want to explain, define and describe, it should have certain conditions. 5 conditions, rules of verbalization. One is, see, if you see something in animal, you may try to explain it belongs to a generic category to which that animal belongs. Or if you are, for example, if you see a flower that you want to explain, describe, you would say the flower is red in color, blue, yellow, and so on. And then, if it is something pratyaksha siddha, something that is obvious, then let us say something you see and you may say it's like sky. The sky is not something to be explained. Nobody will ask you what is sky. So it is pratyaksha siddha. See, rudi means something that is conventionally known. Rudyartha means the meaning of an object that happens to be established by constant usage at the conventional level, as opposed to yogikartha, which means the ikshar etymological meaning, linked to the root and also the formation of the word according to Panini Sutras. So, Jadi, Guna and Rudi, these 3 would apply to Turiya. Because Turiya is, after all, it is Advaita. It is one without a second. So there is no way for you to explain to somebody Turiya is like this. No. You cannot refer to any generic quality to which Turiya belongs. And Turiya is, it doesn't have any ubadhi, it is beyond all gunas. So there is no way to explain gunas. Red flower, green flower, etc. And it is not rudi, it is not well known conventionally. You can say the sky is like this, the moon is like this, you can say. But you can't say Turiya is like this, you can't say. And then karma. If you want to explain your friend, you may describe him as a musician, as a gardener. You may say, because that's the job he does. So that's the 4th way of explaining. But Turiya is not in this Atman, Turiya, Brahman, not involved in anything. It is Niskriya, Nirvikalpa, Nirubhadika, and all that you mentioned there. So you cannot explain Turiya in association with any kind of activity. And the Sambandha. Sambandha is the most important. Sambandha is the most important of this Panchashabda Pravritti. Because when you explain something in the context of Sambandha, you may use Shakti Vibhakti, which shows some kind of an intimate relationship. So Sambandha also cannot be used because Turiya is beyond all this. So it is called Sarva Shabda Pravritti Nimitta Shunyatvam. There is no Shabda Pravritti in Turiya. You cannot use Jadi, Guna, Rudhi, Karma, Sambandha. In some content, Dravya is mentioned instead of Rudhi. You cannot do that. Therefore, Shabda Anabhideyatvam. Therefore, there is no way to explain, to reveal Turiya, because Turiya cannot be described, explained or defined. I mentioned earlier, Indian philosophy, in the broader sense, accepts a mind-boggling number of pramanas. Principles of elements in the theory of knowledge, epistemology is a branch of philosophy, it's called. Pratyakshanumana, Vamana, Shabda, Arthavati, Anavilabdi, Sambhava, Aitihya, Cheshta, Parishesha. Pratyaksha is direct perception, Arimana is inference, then analogy, a comparison, comparing, of course, earlier, then verbal testimony, you quote a book in terms of, and then of course presumption. Of course negation, then presumption. Then sambhava, some kind of an event that you're seeing, that can be the basis for explaining, knowing certain things. Aitihya may be a legend, some kind of a belief, hearsay. And chesta, some kind of an external gesture. For example, the traditional Sanskrit books tell you if somebody is sitting there, miserable looking, he stretches out his hand and looks famished, it means he is asking for food. Chesta, external gesture. Parisesha is, those who have read, the well-known what do you call it? What is a famous, world-famous detective, Conan Doyle's, Sherlock Holmes. His method is, leaving out all the possibility and then accepting that. In a humorous way, I used to make people understand this to philosophy students in Stanford, I used to mention. So, Sherlock Holmes is an exponent of this parisesha. You're using in criminology. So what is parisesha? That also cannot be used here. There are two important tools of epistemology to be considered. One is arthapatti, the other is parisesha. Arthapatti is often used. Somebody who is getting fatter and fatter and is not seen eating food during daytime, you assume that he is eating food at night, not seen by anybody. So that's you presumption. And the other one is you leave out all other possibilities and then you take whatever is possible. Suppose there are 20 people in the room and you find somebody, one among them has kept maybe a box that you kept on the table. He has taken the box and kept above, and you ask everyone, have you done it? Have you done it? All the 19 ones say, well, I have not done it. But then there is a 20th one who is a tall fellow, and there is a mischievous smile on his face. So in the Mayavati says, so that person should be the culprit who has taken it, kept on that. So this is last possible. Now the point is, if you leave out all other possible ways of explaining Turiya, is there something that can be left out? But remember, in that story, in that the example I gave, there are only 20 people. 19 are left out. So naturally, the only possibility is that the other person, the 20th one, should be the culprit who has taken this box and kept on the top layer of the building. Because somebody is tall, and also the only one left out. So you presumably, you are sure that it is called parisista, means parisesha nyaya. What is left out yet to be explained. But for that, there should be a clear understanding how many people are there. You leave 19 out, then the 20th one is only one left out. So you conclude that should be the question. But in this context, Turiya, you cannot use parisesha nyaya, because Turiya is one without a second. It is not just one of the many like the 20, but the 20th one is one of the 20th. But there is no such, you cannot predetermine what Turiya should be. Therefore, Vedantics will tell you that this way Turiya is sarva pramana avati, beyond all pramanas. So all these are very important technical terms used in Advaita Vedanta. That is Pancha Shabda Pravritti Nishetaha, Sarva Pramana Avati, Vacha Magocharam, Anivachaniyam. All these are terms used in Vedanta. Actually, if you want to find an English equivalent to any of these important phraseologies, it's very difficult. You have to speak for half an hour, but even one of these terms really means you have to write one full page to explain what Pancha Sabda Pravritti Nisheta. So once a term is mastered, use it. That's all. Just like if you are studying Kant, Immanuel Kant, for example. The Americans pronounce can't, and Germans are not very much amused by that kind of pronunciation. The critique of pure is a thing in itself. So how do you explain thing in itself into an Indian vernacular? You cannot really explain or describe or find an exact counterpart to many of the terms used in Western philosophy, in German idealistic philosophy. And then if you use a translation, you'll be terribly confused. Better you go for an English translation, which is closer to the original German. That is true in Vedanta also. So these terms should be properly understood and should be kept in mind. Once you use that, it's like a password. Immediately becomes clear. So there is Pancha Shabda Pravritti Nishetaha and Sarva Pramana Avati, Vacha Magocharam. All these are Anivachniyatum. All these are important stock phrases which are their own, which have evolved their own fixed meanings and implications in Vedanta, which is very difficult to translate to any other language. So now we are coming to the next subject. Now here Purvapakshi is asking one question, a Shunyavadi asking a question. Shunyameva tarhi. Now you say this Turiya cannot be explained. It doesn't have any characteristics. And there is no way to understand it using any of the pramanas, any of the tools of epistemology. Then it should be Turiya. It should be Shunya. Shunyameva tarhi. So, Purvapakshi asking question, that should be a Turiya, should be Shunya. Tat na. So Siddhartha Advaita said no. Mithya vikalpasya nirdimitatva anubhavtehi. Now the point is, if it is mithya, now remember what is Shunya. I already defined Shunya according to Nagarjuna, quoting from Madhyamika Karika, so Anirodham, etc. So something that doesn't come into existence, doesn't get destroyed, there's no permanence, it doesn't come, doesn't go, and cannot be explained, it cannot be seen, it cannot be perceived. All that Nagarjuna says, and that is Shunya. So your Turiya should be Shunya like this. So Advaita say, not Shunya. Mithya vikalpasya nirnimittatva anubhavtehi. So you cannot even think of, conceive of something that is false, that is a superimposition, without something to superimpose upon. For example, without, I mentioned this morning, without a rope being there, you cannot think of a serpent, a snake lying there, because that snake impression, idea cannot come there, cannot exist without some real thing lying there, that is that shoe. Nahi Rajada Sarpa Purusha Mrigatushnegadi Vigalpaha Shuktika Rajada Sthanu Usharadi Vidiregena Avasthas Sakyaha Kalpaidam. So Rajada is silver. You mistake Shuktika. Shuktika means kind of pearl of some kind of maybe an outer shell of a creature that you find in the river bird or ocean bird in the vast expanse of sand. So you mistake that object which appears to be brilliant in the evening sun. So you mistake it for Rajada or the silver. Similarly, when you see the Jew in semi-dark room, you mistake it for snake, sarpa. Again, when there is a desert place, you're driving, maybe it happens even when you're driving, there are places where you have maybe 100 miles, roads are straight and very well built, very broad, wide roads. You may mistake there should be a pole ahead. This happens not only in deserts but also in very good roads. When you look at a distance, you mistake it for a pool of water. Again, you mistake a pillar or a post for a human being. So, none of these real things, that is Yuktika is what you see there, you mistake it for a silver. Rajju is there, you mistake it for a snake. And sand is there, you mistake it for a lake, a pool of water. A statue or some kind of pole, you mistake it for a human being. So without something that's aspada, which is, aspada means the real thing, adhara, the rajju, or pillar, or maybe the sand, all these are aspadas, adharas, the real things lying there. That you mistake for something else. So, you superimpose something that's false, that's because of your memory, your dhyasa, smriti rupa, and you superimpose upon that the real thing lying there, which it could be something else. So it happens. This here Bhashyakara says, without some real stuff, real thing lying there, you cannot mistake, you cannot superimpose something on it. Then Purvapaksha, you understand this Purvapaksha? Purvapaksha means a view opposed to Advaita. If you can ask question if you have doubt at the end of it. Evam tarhi pranadi sarva vikalpaspadattva turiyasya sabdavachittamidina pratishedehi pratyayatvam udagat dharadiriva ghadatehi. Now remember, this statement, this opposition from the Purvapaksha is a response to one statement that comes in the Bhashya. What's the statement? Sabda anabhideyattamidi vishesha pradishethena iva turiyam nidikshati. So we are going to describe turiya through vishesha pradishedha, means nishedha mukhavakya. By explaining something, by describing what it is not. Remember, I mentioned this some time ago, I don't know if you remember. Meister Eckhart was perhaps the only great Christian theologian who was a Dominican priest who lived in 13th century Germany. Meister Eckhart, don't mistake Eckhart Tolle for God's sake. It is Meister Eckhart, the great German philosopher who lived in theology, lived in 13th century Germany. So he evolved this apophatic theology, which is called negative theology, in which he says that ultimate reality cannot even be fully explained as God or Father in heaven or anything. Every attempt to explain this ultimate reality, even using the word God, is only an approximation. That's the idea behind. And in Shankara's commentary, and also it's repeated by Sureshwara Guru Swartika, he says, Sarvani Shastrani means all Shastras, including the Upanishad, are only failed attempts to explain what is beyond explanation. So all Shastras are important because the Shastras will equip our mind with the tools, make our mind a fit instrument to experience what can only be experienced but never be explained. So Shastras are important as meditation, Japa, all the disciplines, Vichara, etc. But don't ever imagine the Shastra means these Moksha Shastras, spiritual classics, themselves exhaust the truth of spirituality. They are talking about something that's beyond themselves. So, because the Shankaracharya statement, Sutya, Yuktya, Swanabhutya. Swanabhuti is the ultimate goal, and that comes only much later when it becomes a real experience in ourselves, that is Aparoksha Anubhuti. That's a very important. Aparoksha is called, it is not Paroksha, because Atman is our own inner being. It is not pratyaksha because it cannot be perceived using mind and panchajnanendriya. So it is sakshat aparokshat brahma yajnavalkya. So here Purvapakshi asks this question. If you explain that this turiya is the aspada, is the foundation of everything, adhisthana of everything, just like Rajju is the aspada of sarpa, or sand is the aspada of pool of water, etc. Then why should you use this negative theology? Nanda prakyam, na bhishprakyam, na veda prakyam. He said it's a prelude to explaining the seventh mantra. That's why long introduction to seventh mantra. It's the most important mantra in the Upanishad. That is the central thesis of Mandukya, the seventh mantra. So it's called negative theology, the neeti, etc. So the Purvapakshi asks the question, just like without Rajju you cannot have Sarpa Praditi. Like a Sarpa is Vikalpa, a Rajju is Adhara Adhisthana. And without an Adhisthana Adhara there could be Vikalpa. Without some reality, true reality, there could be false perception. In that case, you just say, it is the Adhisthana of all this, it is the foundation of all this, it is the Adhara of all this. Then why should you use a negative theology? It is not Nanda Prakyam, it is not Guha Prakyam, so it is not the seer in the dream, it is a seer in the waking state, it is not experiencer in Sushupti. Like that goes on, it cannot be seen, it can be explained. This seventh mantra comes. So you just say that this is Turiya is the foundation, the Adhara of all these. That's why Devantaki Pranadi Sarva Vigalpaspadatva. Turiya is the aspada of all these Vigalpas, Prana, etc. So then Turiyasya Sabdavachitam. So Turiya becomes describable, definable. There is no need to define it using negative theology. You can define it through Vidhimukha, means like Satchidananda Brahma, etc. Instead of seeing Nanda Prakyam, etc. So there is a Pratyayatam. It can be explained. Then he gives an example, Udaga Dharadiva Khadati. Ghada is a pot, like aspada, the foundation, the Adhara. Udaga is water. So you can say, for example, somebody asks you what is Ghada, what is pot, you can say, it is the thing in which water is held. Perfectly okay. Like Turiya could be defined as the foundation of everything. So there is no need to take resort to negative theology. That means explaining Turiya by saying what it is not, and what is left out cannot be explained. That's why in the Vedic mantra, the Yajurveda, Antaya Vihuvadinam Anantaya Mukam. The absolute reality can only be explained in the language of silence. What is finite can be explained through verbosity. You can write a huge volume about empirical things, what is finite. What is infinite can only be explained through silence. So that's the reality, and that's the idea that comes in the next paragraph. Now, pranadi vikalpasya avastutvad suktigadishu iva vesidadihi. So, the point is, pranadi vikalpa are just like Rajada. See, Rajada is not there. So, because Rajada Praditi is there. You cannot really say the Rajju, the rope is the aspada of Sarpa. To say that You should have both Rajju and Sarpa. Sarpa is not there. Sarpa is only in your head because of your ignorance, because of the fact there is not enough light. But the example that Purvapakshi mentioned, the opposite party, said, why don't you explain this just like explaining water, or explaining as a pot. Pot is the vessel in which water is held. Pot is the aspada of water. So water is visible. It is a vyavaharic entity. It is something that you can see and drink. Pot is something you can see. So both belong to the same level of reality. So you can say, so if somebody asks what is ghada, what is pot? Pot is the vessel in which water is held. It is the adhara. But you cannot say Rajju is something on which Sarpa is superimposed. There is no Sarpa there to begin with. Sarpa is only in your mind. So Sarpa is only Sarpa Pradiri, it is Pratibhasika Satta. Rajju is Vyavaharika Satta. So they belong to two different levels of reality. Rajju is Vyavaharika, you can see in front of you. Sarpa is only Pratibhasika, it's a conceptual reality, not a real thing. So the example that Purvapakshi projected, that is his argument, that Turiya can be explained just as the aspada of all the vikalpas, like the adhisthana, the support of water, that won't hold good. Because you cannot combine one reality which is visible in front of you and another reality which only in your imagination, Sarpa. So that is the argument. Once you understand the argument, then the words become clear. Now, pranadi vikalpasya avastutvat. Pranadi vikalpa is avastu like Sarpa, like Rajada, like the pool of water, etc. Suktigadishu iva rizadihi nahi sat asatohu sambandha. So you cannot connect two entities, something that is only in your head and something that is here on the table. So somebody asks you, you do one thing, you tie this thread that I kept on the table with a rope that is in your imagination. You cannot do that because the rope is in your imagination and the thread is right in front of you. So Vyavaharika and Pratibharika sattas cannot be combined together. That is sadasatohu sambandha nahi. There cannot be a sambandha relationship between two levels of realities. Sabda pravritti nimitta bhak. That means Sambandha is one of the, in fact, the most important of the Pancha Sabda Pravritti Sambandha. That's the most direct way of verbalizing, explaining something. So there cannot be Sambandha. By Asatutvat. Because one is Asatva, Tadrid Vyavaharika. Then Napi Pramanandra Vishayatvam Surupena Gavadiyut. So, Pramanandra, another pramana, that is Pratyaksha Siddha. For example, somebody asks you, what is a cow? You can explain to your friend what a cow is, because your friend also has seen a cow. He knows very well what a cow is like. So you can explain to him. It is Rudha. Rudhi means what is conventionally known and familiar. But Shabdartha, actually, Shabdarthas and Shastras only sankeda, any indication. Reality is always beyond words. But then, these words can only be employed to explain something in the context of any of the 5 Pancha Sabda Pravritti. That's the idea behind. So, another possible way of explaining Napi, Pramanandra Vishayatvam, another Pramana, Pratyaksha Siddham, that is Rudhi. For example, somebody asks you, what is a cow like? You can certainly explain. Because the other man also has seen a cow. It is well known Pratyasha Siddha, conventionally well known and familiar to everyone. Atmano Nirubadhritvat. Atman cannot be, Turiya cannot be explained like that. Why? Turiya doesn't have any upadhi. So you cannot explain it in a conventional manner. Because nobody has seen it. It is something that you experience as a result of your own spiritual evolution. That's the idea behind it. It is not something that you know about, talk about, write about, using any of the pramanas. Gavadivat nabijadimattu. Again, somebody might say, so any animal, whatever it is. You can explain a cow by explaining the generic category that it belongs to. That also is one way. But that's not possible in the context of Turiya. Why? Advitiyattvena samanya vishesha bhava. In order to explain an entity in the context of a generic category to which it belongs, for example, cow, you explain, in the context of a generic category of animals to which it belongs. For that there will be many things. They mean cow, the cow that they are explaining is Vishesha, specific this cow. Samanya is cows in general. So there should be a reference point in the form of a generic category when you have to explain something specific. Vishesha, Samanya. Samanya is generic, general. Vishesha is specific. So there's only way to employ this method. You have to combine Samanya Vishesha, that is generic and specific. And in the context of Turiya, this will not be possible by Atudiyatena Samanya Vishesha Bhava. There is only one Turiya, not number of Turiyas. No, there is only one Turiya. There is no Vishesha Samanya problem in the context of Turiya. It is one without a second. Advitiyattvena Samanya Abhava Vishesha Abhava. Now, another thing is, Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, it denies all the three Vedas, Sogata Veda, internal difference, Sajadiya Veda, external difference, and Vijadiya Veda. In Ramanuja system, they take only one, they accept one Veda, but Sugata Veda they don't accept, Sajadiya Veda they accept, but there is one Veda ultimately. So there is an important observation by Anandagiri in this context. Anandagiri says, in the context of Siddhanta, see the argument from the standpoint of Purvapakshi is, there is no need to employ negative theology, Nishedha Mukhavakyam in the context of Turiya. Why? Turiya can be explained properly as Adhara of everything. The Purvapakshi raised this Purvapaksha because he was responding to a statement Siddhanta. What is it? Siddhanta? Pancha Shabda Pravritti Nishedha. I mean, there is the statement, you have to remember this Bhashya. Sarva Shabda Pravritti Nimitta Sunyatva Tasya Shastrani Videyatun Iti. Because there is none of the Pancha Shabda Pravritti possible in the context of Turiya, therefore it cannot be explained, it cannot be named. There is no abhidhanam for it because it doesn't become an abhideya of anything. Now Anandagiri says, Yadi adhishtanatvam turiyasya ishtam tarhi vachitvam adhishtanatva ghadativat idi prakramasya idi chodayati. So Anandagiri is trying to explain a point that Purvapakshi did not make very clear. So he says, there is a lack of uniformity and inconsistency in the Advaitin statement. That is, remember, that's a view coming from Purvapakshi. Anandagiri is trying to explain the Purvapakshi's argument. But he says, if there is no Adhisthanatam of Turiya, then why don't you explain Turiya without saying Anivachaniya? You say Turiya Atman is the Adhisthana of everything, all this world is Vikalpa, superimposition. Turiya is the Adhisthana. Simple. Just like water is kept in the ghada. Ghada is the Adhisthana of water. Ghada can be defined as Adhisthana or ghada can, as the pot in which water is kept. So there is an inconsistency. So now coming to subject again. Nabi Kriyavattu. Kriya is another Panchasabda property. Kriya means some kind of activity, just like a musician. How do you describe a musician? A musician is one who sings or who composes music, who gives an orchestra or concert. It's called a musician. Who is a painter? A painter is one who paints a picture. Like that, you explain Turiya in terms of something that Turiya does, but Turiya doesn't do anything. Nabi Kriyavattum Pajagadivat. He is a cook. Why? Because cooking is the work he is doing. Like that, Turiya is not doing anything. There is no Kriya, there is no Sambandha, there is no Guna, no Jadi, no Rudhi. So, Avikriyatva, Nabi Gunavattum Nirativat. Again, you cannot explain Turiya using another type of Panchasabda pravati, that is Guna, like Niladivat, Gunatva Turiya, Nirguna in the context means Guna Adhitatvam. As we kept in mind, people who explain Atman, Brahman or Turiya as Nirguna, we should remember, if you use the word Nir, like Vasarga, they mean devoid of, etc. But here in Vedanta means Atidatvam. That's the real meaning of Nirguna. Guna Atidatvam. Something that can be limited in terms of any specific characteristic or quality. That is the meaning of Nirgunatvam in the context of Turiya. Nabi Gunavattam Niladivati Nirgunatvat Ato Nabhidhanena Nirdesham Arkati. Therefore, Turiya cannot be explained using any Abhidhanam or Abhidhayanam, because Turiya can never be an Abhideya. That's why it is said, Shabda Anabhideyatvam Turiyasya. It's already mentioned earlier. Tasya Shabda Anabhideyatvam in the previous paragraph. So, Turiya, it actually, in Vedanta, Vidhimukha is only an approximation. The only way to do full justice to Advaita is using Nishedhamukha, that is Niti Niti, Nanda Prakam, Nirvish Prakam, etc. Satyam Jnanamanadam Brahma is okay, but that is only an approximation. Now again the Purvapakshi asking another question. Sasavishanadi Samatvad. In that case, like the horn of a hare. Sasya Vishanadi Samatvad Nirathagatum Tarki. In that case, this Turiya is like the horns of a hare. I mentioned earlier. If it is a hare, it can have a horn. If it is a horn, the animal should be some other animal. That's the idea behind. So it means the very moment you name it, you pronounce it, you deny its possibility. That's the idea behind. So that means there's no nirathagatu, it's no use. You don't go in search of a hare with a horn. No, because it is nirathagatu means it is absolutely no meaning, no utility value. Vedanta is totally useless. That's what this Purvapakshi says. So actually this comes from Vijnanavadi's this argument. Now, Atmata Vagame Turiyasya Anatma Krishnamya Vrutti Hetutva Shuktika Vagame Iva Rajada Krishnaya. Suppose you are seeing a mother of pearl, something that resembles a piece of silver in the seashore. And if you are somewhat greedy by nature, you may think there is a piece of silver, you can buy it and you sell it. But the moment you realize it is not a silver, really speaking, it's only mother of pearl, worthless, absolutely no value, then your desire for silver will go away. Like that, Bhashagara says, once you understand through Turiya Sakshatkara, once you realize your own true nature, then it has got a tremendous benefit. You realize that Turiya is your own Pratyagatma, your own Swarupa, your own true nature, your own reality, Atmanya, Atmanatushta, etc. When you Veda Bhavati, etc. When it happens, what happens is, your desire for Nanatu Trishna, means, Rajada Trishna means Nanatu Trishna. When we understand that everything in this world is just Mithya, Maya, only relative, not absolute reality. Then what happens is, our desire for these worldly empirical things, that desire goes away, just like somebody who thought he is now looking at a piece of silver on the seashore. Suddenly he realizes, after some observation, he realizes, just a mother of pearl, totally worthless thing. This in nickel. Then you know what happens? You will stop searching for that silver. So that's why Atmatva Avagame, when you realize that your Swarupa is Atma, Turiyasya Anatma Trishna Vyavrutti Hetutva. What happens is, Anatma Trishna Vyavrutti. You stop, you get liberated from the Trishna, from the desire for things which are not Atman, for early empirical things. Like the example is given, it becomes the cause. This freedom from desire for empirical things, anatma, nanatva, etc., is the benefit, the prayojanam of this atma-jnana. So it is a response to the Purvapakshi who said that the Turiya cannot be explained, cannot be seen, cannot be described, cannot be defined. In that case, it is nothing, no use looking for it. But then Siddhartha says, no. When you realize this, then your desire, all your greed, all worldly desire, all these things will go away, become completely liberated from all this. So that is the prayojan. That's the utility. An example is given, of course, when you understand, you realize that it is just a piece of mother of pearl, some kind of outer shell of an insect, and not a piece of silver as you imagined, then your desire, your greed for silver will go away. So that's why Sukti Vagame Iva Ditadrishnayaka. Nahi Turiyasya Atmatva Avagame Sati Avidya Trishnadi Doshanam Sambhavakasti. Once we realize that we are Atman, we are Turiya, and not this experience of worldly things in waking state or dream state or deep state. Once we realize we are Turiya, then what happens is all this avidya, trishna, desire, ignorance, all the doshas will go away. Naja turiyasya atmatva anavagame karanamasti. Of course, there is no reason why this Turiya Jnana will not come. This will not be possible. Turiya Jnana is possible. The pramanam is given Sarva Upanishadam Tadatthena Vakshayat. So that is an important thing. Sarva Upanishadam, all Upanishads. The Upakshaya means all these Veda mantras, they retire after finishing their work. All the Upanishads, all Vedas, they go on explaining, they go on expounding different doctrines. Finally they retire with Veda Bhavanti, etc. Means once we realize the true nature, then that experience can only be explained in silence. So what happens? This is the ultimate pramana. That is, this Turiya Jnanam has got a number of pramanas. One pramana is Tattwamasi, Ayamatma Brahma, Tassatyam Satma, Yasakshat Avarokshat Brahma, Sabhya Bindruhya Jaha, Admaivedam Sarvam. All these mantras are quoted as Sudhi Pramana. So the Bhashya's style. So Bhashya refers to Sudhi Pramanas, and then Yukti is used. At the point of using Yukti, all other possible doubts, other possible objections are raised only with the purpose of emphasizing and making more clear what the Bhashya had already expounded. So that's the purpose. Okay. Now it continues. Swayam Atma Paramartha Aparamartha Rupa Chaduspad Ityukta. So this already we found in the earlier books. Swayam Atma Paramartha Aparamartha Rupa Chaduspad. So here this Atman is explained. Paramartha. Paramartha is Turiya. We are coming to that. It's just a prelude to the seventh mantra. Bhashya prepares the stage. So because this is the most profound, the central theme of this work. So Swayam Atma, that Turiya, Paramartha. That Atma. Paramartha. What is Paramartha? Paramartha Turiya itself. And what is Aparamartha? Aparamartha is visualizes of Prajna, Jagrat Swapna Suruti, Vaishwanara Hiranyagarbha, and Antaryami, Avyakta, Ishvara. That is Samashti Bhava of Prajna state, Suruti state. All these are Aparamartha. Now, remember, what is Aparamartha here? Sarpa is Aparamartha. Again, the Marumarichi, actually that pool of water in the seashore is Aparamartha means unreal, vikalpa, superimposition. That object which resembles silver, Shuktika, is Aparamartha. Like that, again, the magician climbing onto the rope and going through different stages, that is Aparamartha. Remember, that is a very classic and celebrated exposition here. I give many talks. Actually, this Indian rock trick, surprisingly, you find references. Many of the travelers, European, Al-Biruni, when visited India, and then many of the European travelers have recorded seeing these played out in streets and other places in 19th, 18th centuries. We can't corroborate it, but you can find Indian rock trick is a very, very, very ancient belief. Actually, this comes in Shankaracharya 8th century, so you can imagine, still before the advent of foreigners in this country. So Indian rock trick is a very old analogy, but for us Vedantins it is an important metaphor in a way. So remember, the magician is standing there. The real magician is standing there, bhumishto tishtha, without doing anything. But remember, that very magician in all his outlandish dress code is found clutching to the rope and climbing to heavens. There is no distinction between the two forms. And if the magician had not come, this magic also would not have happened. So without Turiya, there will be no Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti experiences. But does it mean that the magician is really climbing? No. Without the magician coming to the court, the whole play will not happen, magic will not happen. But at the same time, the magician himself is not directly involved in this process. So like that, Turiya is present in the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti stage. But just like the magician is seen to be climbing on the rope, not really climbing. That should be kept in mind. That's why it's called Aparamartha. Visual Taijasa Prajna, Aparamartha means it corresponds to the Vyavaharika. See, Jagrat is Vyavaharika. So Swapna also belongs to the category of Vyavaharika. I think you remember the Bhashya where we read the connection between Vaishwanara and Hiranyagarbha, between Sthula and Sukshma, between Jagrat and Swapna. The example is given, you open your eyes, you see an elephant. Elephant example is not mentioned in this Bhashya, it is my own contribution. So you see, look at an elephant in Jagrat state, and the picture is clear in your mind, then you close your eyes, and then you relive, re-experience seeing the elephant again in your mind at an internal level. So you are again seeing the elephant, the same color, but mentally. Swapna is like that, as Bhashyakara says. Swapna is like that. When you close your eyes, you can quickly imagine the elephant running. But in Jagrat state, it doesn't really happen. So, in Swapna there is a difference between Jagrat and Swapna, but the difference is that in Swapna or in memory at a mental level, things happen in split second. Every sankalpa, every thought process corresponds to an event in memory or in Swapna. But in Jagrat, it is at a concrete sthula level, at a gross level. So all these Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, all these empirical experiences are Paramartha. And what is Paramartha? Turiya. So Paramartha, Aparamartha, Rupasya Taduspad, Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, Aparamartha. Turiya, Paramartha. Taduspad ityuktah. Tasya Aparamartha rupam avyakudam yuddhisappadisamam uktam. So we have already till now explained that non-absolute, that is called it Aparamartha, means non-absolute experiences, that is visualizes of prajna, waking, dream and deep sleep experiences, which is avidyakudam, is created by avidya. Rajyasarpa means Rajju appearing as sarpa, the rope appearing as snake. Uttam, samuktam, padatraya lakshanam, bijagurasthaniyam. So here, the Rajyasarpa samuktam, that is the Aparamartham, is created by avidya, avidyakritam, padatraya lakshanam, that is Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti. Vishwa is a prajna. It is padatrayam, three padas. Bijangurasthaniyam. Why? Because they have got a cause-effect relationship. Sushupti is Karana and Swapna and Jagrat are Karyas. Sushupti was supposed to be Karana. You already remember that. It's an important point, unless you study traditionally you will understand. It's important. For example, Mahamasya Drishtanta and Sabari Drishtanta are examples for this. So when anybody who learns this, immediately you should listen to, you keep in mind Mahamasya Drishtanta from Brihadaranyaka and Sabari Drishtanta from Chandogya. Mahamasya is moving from east bank to west bank, but his movements originate in the river or ocean. The river is Sushupti. This side, east bank, is Jagrat, the other side is Swapna. Like that, the Shaguni, the bird that is flying around, it is tied to a tree, let's say, or a pole. The tree is Sushupti. And it moves all around Jagrat Swapna. But you have to come back to the place where it is tied the tree. Mahamasya cannot remain for long in either bank, east bank or west bank. It has to be in the river. So, the river Susupti or the tree Susupti. Susupti is Karana, Jagrat, Swapna are Karyas. That's why Bijangrasthaniya. Bija means seed, Angra means sprout. So you sow a seed, and from the seed, which is the cause, sprout comes, the effect. So, and again, that sprout becomes a tree, and also it produces seeds, and this rotation continues. So, Karya, Karana, this interchange, that's called Bijangrasthani. Bijangranyaya is a different context. Bijangrasthaniyam. What is Bijangrasthaniyam? Padatraya Lakshanam Aparamartham. Jagra Swapna Sruti. The non-absolute. Vishuddha is a prajna. Jagra Swapna Sushupti. Bijangrasthaniyam. Atha idanim abijatmagam paramartharupam vidyasthaniyam sapadisthaniyam uktasthana traya nirajaranena aha antapratyam ityadina. It's a long sentence. So Bhashikara says, now we are going to take up the discussion of Paramartha, Turiya. That is 7th mantra. We'll discuss in the next class. If you got any doubt, we can ask. Okay, most welcome. I believe you should get ready with some questions, because that will help me to focus on certain areas which are not. So now we can clear. Otherwise, okay. So thank you. We'll conclude today. Okay, fine. Because remember, I have not yet started the last 3-4 lines of this paragraph, because that will be linked to the next mantra, Nanda Prakyam, etc. So I will take it up later tomorrow morning. Thank you. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Namaste.